It was late. Most of the building was empty. The city below still glittered, but up here, the top floor was quiet. The only sounds were the hum of the vents and the soft squeak of a mop on marble floors. Then a small voice broke the silence. A boy, no more than 12, looked up at the framed document hanging behind the CEO's desk and said, "Sir, that's my mom's signature." For a moment, nobody moved. The pen in the CEO's hand stopped mid-stroke. The janitor froze, staring at his son as if he'd just said something that could ruin them both. The CEO turned slowly toward the frame on the wall, the company's pride, a billion-dollar patent, the foundation of everything his family name stood for. And in the bottom corner of that frame, clear as daylight, was a signature the world believed belonged to someone else. That single sentence from a child would tear open a 5-year secret, expose a betrayal buried in contracts and lies, and force a powerful man to face the truth about where his company's success really came from. Because this wasn't just any invention. It was the technology that made Ward Automotive one of the biggest names in safety. And the woman whose name was missing had once trusted the very people who erased her. What happens next will take us from this quiet office to hidden lab records, missing files, and one final moment that left the CEO in tears. Stay with me. This story changes everything you think you know about justice, loyalty, and who really gets remembered. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Moments after that quiet voice filled the CEO's office, everything changed. Security footage shows the boy lowering his hand slowly, unsure if he'd done something wrong. His mother, standing by the far window with a cleaning cloth still in her hand, looks frozen between pride and fear. The CEO doesn't answer right away. He just stares at the signature on the wall, a signature he's seen every day of his career, and for the first time, it feels like a question instead of proof. A question that refuses to stay silent. Who really owned the idea behind Ward Automotive's crown jewel? Why did a mother disappear from her own invention? And what could make a powerful CEO break down, on record? The story you're about to see isn't about technology alone. It's about what happens when someone builds something meant to save lives, and the world takes it away from them. 5 years earlier, Ada Cole was one of the most promising engineers in predictive collision technology, a field that could change car safety forever. She believed she'd found a way to give vehicles a kind of second sight, a system that could sense danger before humans even react. But one day, her name vanished. From the company website, from the patent listings, from every record that could prove she ever existed in that role. She didn't resign. She didn't retire. She simply disappeared. Her friends stopped hearing from her. Her colleagues thought she'd moved on. And for 5 long years, no one asked why, until her 12-year-old son pointed at a frame in an office built on her work. This is Eli Cole, 12 years old, quiet, observant, fiercely protective of his mother. He notices everything, especially the things adults overlook. The loop of a letter, the way her handwriting slants when she's tired. He never knew those details could change their lives. This is Ada Cole, 39, once a respected engineer, now working night shifts as a janitor at the very company built on her ideas. No one in the building knows who she used to be, and that's how she's kept it. Until that night, when her son said 9 words that tore the past open. And this is Michael Ward, mid-40s, the face of progress, the son of the late Harold Ward, a man once called the father of automotive safety. Michael inherited not just his father's empire, but also his father's unfinished deals. Behind his calm smile and every PR headline, there's a man who's built a reputation on trust. And tonight, that trust is about to crack. For years, Ward Automotive has claimed the Guardian Field system as its masterpiece, the technology that made it a global name. But if Ada's signature is real, it means the very heart of this empire might have been stolen from the woman cleaning its floors. And then there's Graham Lee, the broker, the fixer, the man who makes inconvenient details disappear. Every deal that changed hands went through him, including the one that buried Ada Cole's invention 5 years ago. They all thought the story was finished. They thought the paperwork was enough. But the truth has a way of leaving trails, in signatures, in old files, in people's memories. So, who really created Guardian Field? Why did Ada Cole vanish from her own design? And why, 5 years later, would the man who runs it all break down when the truth finally reached him? Confidential settlement, 5 years ago. Stamp, sealed. For half a decade, this file stayed locked. Tonight, we're opening it. We'll follow the paper, the footage, and the people who kept quiet until now. Before she was a janitor, before her name disappeared from every record, Ada Cole was an engineer with a purpose. She believed machines could see danger before we ever felt it. She called it Guardian Field, a system designed to predict collisions and react faster than any human could. She wasn't chasing fame. She wasn't chasing wealth. She was chasing safety, the kind she never had growing up. Her idea was simple. If a car could think ahead, families could make it home. That belief became her heartbeat. It was her late nights, her weekends, her savings. But when companies lined up to license her work early, Ada refused. She wouldn't sell something that hadn't passed her safety trials. She'd seen shortcuts before, and the lives they cost. She wanted to change the world. She just never expected the world to change her first. Across the city, Michael Ward lived in another world. Born into legacy, raised inside power. The Ward family had built an empire from steel and trust, or at least the appearance of it. Innovation isn't just about invention. It's about responsibility, about protecting families. Michael said he inherited a machine that never stops. Investors, deadlines, global contracts, the engine never idled. Success meant protecting the brand, no matter what. To his board, the Guardian Field system wasn't just technology. It was the future, and it was worth billions. But behind the headlines, small cracks were forming. Recalls, complaints. The technology wasn't perfect, not yet. Still, stopping production wasn't an option. For him, that patent wasn't just proof of innovation. It was the symbol of everything he'd fought to maintain. His father's legacy, his company's credibility, his name. Between Ada Cole and Michael Ward stood one man, Graham Lee. The broker, the one who made things move faster than they should. Every company has a fixer, someone who can turn a maybe into a yes. Graham sold speed, certainty, and silence. If a deal needed a signature, he could find it. If a project needed to disappear, he knew which form to file. On paper, he was just another consultant. In reality, he was the architect of a cover-up. And 5 years later, that single email, demolition schedule, old lab, would come back to haunt him. He knew what the technology was worth. He also knew who built it. But to him, ownership wasn't about who created something. It was about who could afford to claim it. In less than a year, Ada's lab was shut down, her work reassigned, and her name scrubbed from every public record. Her apartment lease ended abruptly. Her bank account froze under review. Her professional licenses lapsed. And by the time she found new work, her invention had already been launched under another name. She started over, in the same building that stole her life's work. No one recognized her. No one looked twice. And maybe that was the point. Every night, she passed by that frame. The one that carried her dream and someone else's name. She never looked up. Not until the night her son did. Everything lost can still be found if you know where to look. And with one sentence from a child, 5 years of silence were about to end. The past hadn't disappeared. It was waiting to be seen. Every empire has a moment when truth slips through the smallest crack. For Ward Automotive, it began with a boy waiting for his mother to finish her shift. Children remember what adults overlook, especially handwriting. The way the loops curl, the way the ink lifts at the end of a name. To most people, it's decoration. To a child, it's identity. "Sir, that's my mom's signature," Eli said softly. In that quiet office, time froze. The hum of the lights, the buzz of the city below. One child's voice cut through it all, and nothing would sound the same again. The son had spoken, but it was the mother's silence that said everything. "Say that again, son. What did you just say?" Michael said curiously. "I said, that's my mom's signature. She writes it like that, always with a little loop on the C. She showed me once when she signed my birthday card." Eli said, nervous but steadily. "Eli, don't." ADA said. The CEO's world was built on certainty, numbers, patents, contracts. But there are some things no document can explain. A child's memory was now challenging everything he believed his company stood for. "Miss Cole, is there something you'd like to tell me?" Michael said. Ada avoids his gaze, her voice barely audible. "No, sir. My son, he's mistaken. I should get him home." Michael's tone changes, measured, skeptical. "I don't think he's mistaken. HR keeps every employment contract, every signature. Let's take a look." Michael said. He placed two signatures side by side. One signed for a janitor's contract, one for a billion-dollar patent. And they were identical, down to the looping curve of the C. If that signature is real, whose story have we been buying? Michael said quietly. To protect a company, you lock the doors. To protect the truth, you open them. Ada grips Eli's shoulders, whispering fast, trembling. "Call Auntie. Don't leave the lobby. You hear me?" "No matter what," she said. "Mom, what's going on?" Eli said, looking scared. "Just do what I say, baby." ADA said softly. "Ms. Cole, we're not finished. I want records, all patent acquisition files from 5 years ago. Now." Michael said. "Yes, sir." Pulling archives. In that sealed room, the air grew heavy. One man chasing the truth. One woman trying to survive it. And a child standing between both, not understanding that his one sentence had just reopened a grave. "Don't do this, Ada. You know what happens if you talk." Fear isn't always loud. Sometimes it whispers from the past, a number she hadn't seen in years, a voice she hoped she'd never hear again. 5 years earlier, her old lab was wiped from existence. Every prototype, every test log, every file, gone. Officially destroyed. But questions burn longer than documents. A demolition crew said everything burned. But did it? Evidence doesn't always vanish. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, waiting for the right person to look. Ada looks at the CEO, voice trembling. "You have no idea what you've just started," ADA said. The CEO steps closer. "Then tell me," he demanded. Ada shakes her head, whispering, "I can't. He'll come for me, for my son," she said. The signature was only the beginning. The past wasn't buried, it was covered. And now, someone would do anything to keep it that way. If you're following the details so far, drop together in the comments and the state you're currently watching from. Let's see who's with us. In that locked room, truth was finally awake. But outside, in the dark, someone else was already preparing to silence it again. When the world starts questioning your truth, you only have two choices: hide or prove it. That night, Ada chose proof. Ada stopped at a small house near the site. A man in his late 50s, weary, cautious, opened the door. "This is Elias Jordan, former demolition foreman," she said. He eyes her nervously. "You shouldn't be here." Elias said, "I wouldn't be if I had another choice. You were there the week my lab was destroyed. You saw everything." Ada said. Elias owed her nothing, but guilt ages a man faster than years do. He'd carried his for 5. They told me it was a safety order. Hazardous materials. That's what they said. But I remember what I saw. Boxes labeled Coal Tech. They made us smash everything before the bulldozers came. Hard drives, prototypes. They said it was all contaminated. Elias said. Ada's eyes fill with tears. Contaminated with what? Truth. Ada asked quietly. She didn't need an apology. She needed evidence. Something that could speak when no one else would. He'd kept one thing. Not because it had value, but because he couldn't bring himself to throw it away. Sometimes, the smallest scraps become the loudest witnesses. Across the city, Michael Ward wasn't sleeping either. "Priya, I need you to look into the patent chain for Guardian Field." Quietly. No board notifications, no alerts to legal. Just you, me, and the records. Michael said, "You think there's fraud?" Priya Anand asked. "I think there's something I was never told. And if there is, we'll find it." Michael said. They were hunting the same ghost from 2 different sides, one out of guilt, one out of duty. The story leaked before they were ready. One whisper inside a company that size can turn into a storm by morning. "This stops now. You tell Ward if he keeps digging, he'll be in breach of his own corporate bylaws. Tortious interference. I'll bury him under it." When truth gets close, paperwork turns into a weapon. Every clause becomes a shield. Every signature, a trap. He's trying to scare you off. That letter isn't law, it's noise. "Keep going," Priya said. "Mom, what if they don't believe you?" Eli asked. "Then we make them see." Ada said softly. "Doubt has a way of sounding rational, until proof speaks louder. Sometimes, evidence survives by accident. Buried in the dark, forgotten under guilt, waiting for the right hands. They told us to destroy everything. I couldn't. Something in me said keep one thing. Maybe it's dead. Maybe not." Elias said. "Even if it's just fragments, it's more than I have," she replied. She didn't need certainty. She needed a start. "I found something. A drive from the old lab." Ada said. Michael was stunned. "You're sure it's from there?" he asked. "It's all that's left," Ada replied. And just like that, a trail thought to be ashes began to breathe again. The drive spun. Click, click. And the screen went black. To save a memory, you need someone who can resurrect the dead. Tyrone Knox made a career out of it. This thing's been through hell. But if the Platters survived, we've got a heartbeat. Tyrone Knox said. Knox was known as the digital surgeon, a man who could pull data from dust. If the Platters lived, the past still breathes. Power surge damage, melted casing, but look at that, headers intact. Someone tried to kill it, not wipe it. Tyrone muttered. Destruction isn't always thorough when it's done in haste. Beneath melted plastic and soot, the truth waited, piece by piece. I thought I'd lost it all, Ada said, with tears in eyes. Maybe not, Michael retorted. In that dim repair shop, for the first time, they were on the same side. While Knox pieced together broken code, Priya followed the paper trail, and what she found didn't add up. Michael, I'm looking at 2 wire transfers, both labeled patent rights acquisition. One went to the seller listed, the other, a private account under Graham Lee's initials. Priya said, into phone. Fraud leaves fingerprints, in numbers, not blood. This is wrong. The font doesn't match. And this, taps page. This signature wasn't signed by hand. It's digital. And look, the date stamp is 3 days after the patent was filed. Priya added, every lie eventually forgets one detail. This one forgot the clock. Transition payment, Guardian project. Ensure no contest from inventor. NDA absolute. Priya read. With her eyes widened, she spoke on the phone saying, Michael. He paid someone to make sure Ada couldn't fight back. In her search, she found one more thing, an unsigned draft of the same contract. But in the footer, faintly embossed, was Ada's original watermark from her personal lab stationery. It shouldn't exist in that document. But there it was, the ghost of the real creator, still marking her work even in theft. The puzzle was starting to take shape, but every piece they found made one thing clear. Someone had gone to extraordinary lengths to erase Ada Cole. And whoever that someone was, they were still watching. Every secret has an echo. Sometimes it comes from a recording meant to be deleted. It's not ready, Graham. If you push it to production now, the system will fail. People will get hurt, she said, voice steady but desperate. ADA said firmly. Graham stops pacing, his voice clipped and impatient. People die on roads every day. That's life, Ada. We'll pay later, he replied, waving a dismissive hand. He said, ADA, her voice trembling and angry. Then delay them. We're building this to save lives, not gamble with them, she insisted, slamming her notes onto the desk. She said. Graham slams his hand on the table, his voice rising. I'm done waiting. Ward's already agreed to terms. You want to honor your wife's memory? Do it from the sidelines. You've had your chance, he shouted, pointing toward the door. She'll thank me when the money clears, he muttered under his breath. Graham muttered. Intent is louder than ink. You can fake documents. You can forge signatures. But you can't rewrite a person's voice when they say, people will get hurt. Ada stares at the screen, her hand trembling. Michael lowers his head. Priya exhales, slow and heavy. ADA said softly. He recorded over that footage. He told me it was corrupted, she whispered, disbelief in her tone. Now it wasn't. And what it revealed could destroy him, and everything built on the lie. When power meets proof, pride always speaks first. This is ancient history. That file's inadmissible. It violates confidentiality. He snapped, crossing his arms tightly. Graham said cold. Confidentiality doesn't protect crime. He replied, eyes fixed on him. Michael said quietly, you expose this, you destroy market confidence. The patents, the stock, your reputation, it all goes down with me. Think about that, Michael. You'll collapse your father's company, he warned, leaning forward. Graham said. Michael leans forward, his voice low and controlled. You mean my father's company built on her work? I'd rather rebuild from truth than live in theft, he said, steady as steel. He said, you're his lawyer. Tell him the NDAs hold. She can't talk, he can't act, he demanded, turning to Priya. Graham said to Priya, this document voids every NDA you're hiding behind. Fraud cancels confidentiality. And your signature, Mr. Lee, is right here, she said firmly, tapping the page. Priya said, truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs a place to stand. We go public, he whispered, the decision final. Michael whispered, and with those 3 words, a company built on deception prepared to face its own reflection. Exposure is easy. Understanding is harder. Before he made the announcement, Michael Ward did something his father never had. He looked at the invention not as property, but as a promise. He saw the heart under the hardware, the humanity in the math. And he knew, finally, who the story really belonged to. Some legacies are inherited, others are stolen. But the rarest kind, the ones that last, are built from love, from purpose, from nights when no one is watching. The elevator dings softly. Ada turns to leave. Michael speaks, voice calm and resolved. Miss Cole, he called softly from across the hallway. I've read your work, and I think the world needs to see your name again, he said, voice low but sincere. Michael said quietly. In that moment, no lawsuit, no settlement, no press release could equal the power of acknowledgement. It was more than apology. It was the return of something stolen. The past had spoken. Now the world would have to listen. Every empire loves its celebration. Every lie its spotlight. But tonight, the lights would turn on the truth. Michael Ward steps onto the stage, applause rising. Behind him, the company's logo transitions into the Guardian Field emblem. Graham Lee watches from his table, confident again, a drink in hand. Michael speaks into the microphone, calm but deliberate. Thank you all for joining us. Tonight, we celebrate not just progress, but truth, he said, pausing just long enough for the crowd to quiet. The gala's sizzle reel froze. Then it changed, not by accident, but by design. ADA spoke on screen. It's not ready, Graham. People will get hurt, she said, her voice echoing through the speakers. Graham shouted from his seat. Cut the feed. Stop that video, he barked, rising from his chair, panic setting in. But it was too late. The room had already seen the truth, and the truth doesn't turn off. Michael speaks in a microphone, steady. The man you just saw in that video betrayed every principle this company stood for, he said, his voice firm, echoing through the hall. The Guardian Field system was not born from greed. It was born from compassion, from a mother who refused to let safety be sold before it was ready. Michael added with a voice heavy with emotion. Tonight, I'd like to thank the true mind behind Guardian Field. Ada Cole, he said, stepping aside slightly and gesturing toward her. He didn't just expose a fraud. He restored a truth that had waited 5 years to be seen. And in that moment, the man who once silenced innovation was finally silent himself. The celebration turned into a reckoning. Within hours, Priya Anand filed an emergency motion, the first of its kind. Fraud, evidence destruction, and corporate misconduct. Graham Lee, you're under investigation for fraud, obstruction, and destruction of evidence, the agent said firmly, reading his rights, the agent said. Graham muttered faintly. Graham, you'll regret this, Ward, he said bitterly, as they escort him out. But power built on deceit always forgets. Justice doesn't need to shout. It simply waits for the right moment to speak. The evidence didn't just prove theft. It proved intent. And that was enough. Once, Ada Cole's signature was stolen to erase her. Now, it would return to define her. This isn't a favor, it's correction, Michael said, placing his pen down. He didn't just return a patent. He restored royalties, 5 years of back pay, and founded a scholarship in her name for single parents in engineering. I don't want a staged photo, Ada said firmly, her eyes meeting his. Your terms, not mine, Michael replied quietly, leaning back in his chair. She had spent 5 years cleaning other people's floors. Now she stood tall enough to set her own boundaries. And this time, her signature belonged only to her. Months later, the first Guardian Field Gen 2 units rolled off the line. This time, under the right name. She'd lost years, but not her purpose. What she built wasn't just a system. It was something far deeper. Your mother's vision will save more lives than any board decision I'll ever make, Michael said softly to Eli. He said it like a confession, not a compliment. And Ada knew, for the first time, he understood. It wasn't a system. It was a promise. Justice can't always repay the years that were stolen. But sometimes, acknowledgement is the beginning of something bigger. So was justice really served? Or just acknowledged? Would you have gone public? Or settled quietly? What moment in this story told you the truth before it was spoken? Because sometimes, truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs one person brave enough to point and say, "That's my mom's signature." If you thought this story tested honesty, wait till you see the man who walked into a police precinct with a fake charity and took it over from the inside. Subscribe for more emotional twists about truth, courage, and second chances. And if this story moved you, share it with someone who believes integrity still matters. What's your take on this? Drop your comment below. I'm reading every single one of them. And if this helped, hit like and send it to someone who needs it. Also, if you want more stories like this, check out the next video on your screen, where truth isn't just revealed, it's reclaimed.